Hey everyone, so in this video, we're just getting started with chords finally. Okay, so chords are really just three or more pitches happening at once. So the most common of those is actually a chord with just three notes, called a triad. So, think tricycle. Tri means three, three notes, three wheels, makes sense. There are three parts to a triad. So first of all, a triad is built by sticking thirds on top of each other. So we have a third from C to E, and then we build another third on top of that from E to G, and that gives us a triad. Now, there are three parts. The bottom of the triad is called the root. The middle note, the second note up, 1/3 above the root, is called the third. And the next third above that is called the fifth. The fifth part of that is partly because it's also built on a scale where the first, third, and fifth notes of the scale are used. So that's why fifth there and not something like second, third. Because really, if we built a C scale, this would be the first note of the C scale, third note of the C scale, and fifth note of the C scale. And that will give us a triad built on the note C. If I want a different note, say E, I would just start on E, put a third on top of that, which would be G, and then another third on top of that, which would be B, and that would give me an E triad. So whatever note is the root is going to be the name of the chord. So C chord if C is the root, G chord if G is the root, etc. So again, root for the bottom one, middle one is called the third, top one is called the fifth. So there are four triad qualities that are essentially the same as the imperfect interval qualities. So we have major chords, minor chords, diminished chords, and augmented chords. So in order to fully name a chord, you need the root note to name it by its letter, right? And then you need one of the four qualities. Now, when we do this in shorthand, a C major chord does not need major next to it or any kind of M or any other symbol, because it's just assumed that the most common is major, and therefore we just write C, and the major part is assumed. If it's not major, we put on an extra little bit of symbol. So if it's minor, we put a little M, so that means C minor. If it's diminished, we have this little superscript circle up there, that's for diminished, and a little plus is for augmented. Now there are a bunch of ways to get the quality of a chord. So we're going to start with just finding the quality using a major scale. So we're going to build a major scale first, and we know the C major scale has only natural notes, no sharps or flats. And we're going to focus on three specific notes from the scale. The first note of the scale is also the first note of the chord, the main note, the root. So the root will be C, and there's our third, there's our fifth, and each of these you'll notice again is a third above the other. So a third up from C is the third, a third above that is the fifth. If you want a G major triad by making a major scale, all you need to do is build that major scale and take the first, third, and fifth notes. If there's a flat on it, you need to include it if there's a sharp. But in this case, there's none, right? It's just G, B, and D. So you know now that a G major triad is spelled G, B, D. An A scale happens to have a sharp on the third note. That means an A major triad is spelled A, C sharp, E. And a D flat scale means that our root would be D flat, F, and A flat for a major triad. So D flat major triad, you take the first, third, and fifth notes from its scale. So if you know your scales really well, this is a great way to go. So if you know the notes that belong in the scale, and you can just quickly say the letters of the first 5 notes of the scale so that you can find 1, 3, and 5, you can very quickly build major triads or major chords. Then getting to all the other qualities is really easy. So you want to start with major, and then what you can do is compare what happens to a major chord to get to all the others. So if I want minor, all I have to do is lower the third by 1/2 step. So C sharp becomes regular C. If I want diminished, I have to lower the third from the major chord and lower its fifth. So if major is A, C sharp, E, I have to lower the C sharp down to C natural, and I have to lower the E down to E flat. And then augmented, I have to just raise the fifth coming from the major chord. So A, C sharp, E, A stays the same, C sharp stays the same, E gets raised to E sharp. Cool. So what if we had to make a G minor triad? So we know that G major is G, B, D. So if we can hopefully remember how to get from major to minor, you just lower the third. So I find my G major triad, G, B, D, and then to find G minor, I just lower the third by a half step. So G, B flat, D. If I want G augmented, I would go G, B, raise the fifth, D sharp. So G, B, D sharp. Notice that the root never gets touched because if we change the root, we're actually changing the whole name of the chord. So we never touch the root to convert from one quality to another. We only change thirds or fifths or both. So again, to get to G diminished, we would go G, lower the third to B flat, lower the fifth to D flat. So what if I need a D flat minor chord? Well, D flat stays, the root never gets touched. Fifth stays, third gets lowered for a minor triad. So I take my major triad, lower the third to a flat, and I would have all flats, D flat, F flat, A flat. Then if I wanted to make that diminished, I'd have to lower the third from the major chord again, and I would have to lower this guy again. So D flat, F flat for a lowered third, and to lower this fifth, which is already flatted, I would need a double flat. So don't be surprised if you need some of that kind of stuff, like double flats and double sharps, in order to get your triads working. So D flat, F flat, A double flat. And what if I need a D flat augmented chord? Well, D flat stays the same, F stays the same because the third does not change, and a raised fifth would be a natural. So D flat, F, A would be a D flat augmented triad. Let's take a look at another method. Now there's really kind of two versions of this method, because we can look at the intervals in two different ways. But basically, we're going to just look at the stack of intervals that makes the triad and memorize a couple of recipes. So I like the first one because fifths are really easy for me. So what you do is you look at the two intervals that come from the root. So from C to E is one interval, a third, and from C to G is a fifth, another interval, right? So we're looking at the two intervals from the root. Now, the recipe for a major chord, if you want that, is create your root, whatever note that might be, D, D flat, C, F, A flat, whatever it's going to be. And then above that note, that root note, in this case a C, we need a major third. And then we need a perfect fifth above that C. And that will give us a major triad. When we do minor, the only change is, again, we see that the third has changed. What happens to the intervals is the perfect fifth stays, but the third becomes minor. So a minor third and a perfect fifth above the root make for a minor chord or a minor triad. Diminished, we know it's going to be a lowered third and a lowered fifth. We can see that here. And then we can also do it by interval. We can get a minor third and then a diminished fifth from C to G flat will give us a diminished chord. Now I kind of like this because major and minor both have a perfect fifth, and diminished has a diminished fifth. That totally makes sense. We're almost seeing where the name is coming from. And then augmented also, the fifth will help us remember with the naming. So it's kind of nice to do it this way too. I like this way as well. So for a augmented chord, we need a major third above the root and then an augmented fifth above the root. And that will give us the recipe for an augmented triad. So if you don't want to go through all that memorizing of a whole bunch of different major scales or major chords, you might instead just get good at these 4 recipes. And then you have another option for a set of 4 recipes. Maybe you don't feel particularly confident about your ability to create fifths. So maybe you just want to do 2/3 in a row. In that case, you need to always build your triad from the bottom up. So if we're going to do it that way, what you need is your root note, of course. Then you need to build a major third above that. So C to E, for instance, and then a minor third above that. So say that you had made a change on the way up, it needs to be taken into account. So we'll see that in a moment. But a major chord is a major third and a minor third on top of that. So major third on the bottom, minor third up top. For a minor chord, you flip it. it's minor on the bottom, major on top. And as you were building, what you have to do is go C to E flat first, get your minor, and then you have to take into account that you made an E flat here and do that one. So E flat to G is a major third. Don't accidentally do it in reverse order because it will mess with the intervals and things. Make sure you go from bottom to top if you do this method. Diminished, 2 minor thirds. So C to E, and then we would make sure that we had a minor third there, so then it would be C to E flat, and then we'd have to go E flat to G flat to get another minor third. And finally, augmented, 2 major thirds. So that would be C to E and then E to G sharp. Okay, so let's get a little practice at this, and I'm going to show you my way with an exercise. So for my way, I do something a little bit different in my head. I do all the possible major chords built on a single natural letter. So this gives us a C major chord, and a D major chord, and E, and F, and G. And you probably get the idea by now. And then B. These are 7 chords, all made major and all starting on a natural note. All right? So the cool thing about this is if you memorize these 7 chords, you can make every other major chord for a different note of the root. So here's what I mean. So I can change this root and get every possible C chord that's major. So far, this method doesn't help us with a C sharp chord or a C flat chord or a C double sharp chord or any of that stuff, right? How can we do that? So the thing about this that's kind of cool is I can take the root. If the root moves, everybody has to move. So watch. Here's C sharp. If everybody moves, I'll have a C sharp triad. So if C goes up 1, then everyone goes up 1. And that gives me a C sharp major triad. And you'll notice C, E, G, no sharps or flats. And then C sharp, E sharp, G sharp, all sharps. And what if we want flats? We do the same thing. And what if we want something crazy, like C double sharp? Well, I just put a double sharp on every one of those notes. Hopefully we never have to see that chord. Or what if I have double flats? They're always going to match. We can do that with every one of these chords. Now I'm not going to go through doing that right now, but really what you want to memorize is just the bass. And then if you see a C sharp, if the root moves, everybody moves. Then we just do our usual thing. What if I need C sharp minor? Well, I start with C sharp major, which is really easy to get if I've memorized the basic one. So here's my basic triad. I raise C to C sharp. That gives everybody sharps. And then we know that we have to make one change from there to get to minor. Minor has a lowered third right there. So if C sharp, E sharp, G sharp is major, I have to take the sharp off the E, natural. And I'll just take it off completely. So C sharp, E, G sharp makes minor. I can put it back to make it major again. What if I want diminished? I just have to lower both of these, right? What we want is to be able to easily start from a major chord and then adjust. Now what I do is I don't memorize these in scale order like this. So C to D to E to F to G to A to B. Instead, what I do is I have a group. I have C chord, F chord, G chord. And I just memorize that when this chord is major, every one of the notes match. So no sharps, no flats, none of that, right? So C, F, and G. So those 3 will always have all the notes in the triad match when they're major. And then you make an adjustment. So say we were given a G sharp, and then I need to make them all sharp in my mind first. So there's G sharp major, they all match. So I know I have G sharp major. And then what if somebody asked me for G minor? Well, I just have to lower the third. And I'm done. What if they ask for augmented? An augmented chord means a raised fifth. So right now the D is sharped in major. That means I need to raise it 1/2 step. So I need a double sharp on that guy to raise it. And that's kind of it. So my trick is know how to get the main regular natural note roots for all 7 chords. So the next 3 would be D, and you'll notice the pattern, right? Can you recognize the 3 that looks similar again? So 3 of them all match. 3 of them have a raised middle note. Those guys always have a raised middle note when they're major. So what if I have a D flat chord? Everyone has to match. So if the root goes down 1, everyone goes down 1. And that will give me a D flat major. And then if I'm being asked for a D flat minor, I lower the 3rd to flat. Or if I need an augmented, I raise the 5th to natural. Or if I need diminished, I'm going to go back to major first. So here's major. I'm going to go flat, and it's already flatted. So I need, in order to lower the 3rd and the 5th, I've just lowered the 3rd. I need to lower the 5th, and it's flatted to start. So that means a double flat. It's, again, one of these logic things, but once you get used to it, you end up really, really fast, and it makes thinking through chords unbelievably fast. So there is one redheaded stepchild here, the B chord. So that one's special. That one is a raised 3rd and 5th when it's major. So let's say we have a B flat chord. That means everybody moves, right? Everybody has to move down. So that would give me a natural D and a natural F, and that gives me B flat major. So B flat, D, F. And it gives me that. What if we had augmented? That means I raise the 5th from there, and I get that. Whoa, look at all those accidentals. Okay, so here's my first triad. All right, let's look. It's an E. So if I have an E sharp major, this is an E major. E, G sharp, B. And we are given an E sharp. So that means everybody goes up by 1. So what would this chord look like when it's major? That's step 1. What does this look like major? If this is not a regular E root, it's E sharp. That means we start with our major chord and raise every one. So I'm going to put a sharp here. I'm going to put a sharp here. And that middle note needs to also be raised there. So they all moved up by a half step in order to become E sharp major instead of E major. So E became E sharp, G sharp became G double sharp, and B became B sharp. So now I have an E sharp major. And now I can look at what I've been given and decide what I'm actually looking at. So what is the difference between these two? Well, the E sharp, of course, the root is there and should be the same. The 5th is the same. What's the difference? Here's the 3rd. It's double sharped when it's major. This is lower than double sharp by 1. Wait a minute, this chord has a lowered 3rd. So this must be an E sharp. Name the chord, right? What's the root? The root is an E sharp. And then the quality is, here's a major chord. This has a lowered 3rd, must be minor. And I submit. Here we go. Let's do another one. Okay, we've got a G chord. So let's see what G looks like when it's major first. And it might even be a good idea when you're doing these to just start by naming your root. That's never going to change, right? The root is set in stone, and this one doesn't have any sharps or flats on it. So that means my start point is just this. Then we're going to do step 2. Step 2 is what's changed. What has changed? Okay, so I have G and G. So I'm good on my roots. They match now. And this is, I know, a G major chord. They're major. So again, just to reiterate, major triads based on natural notes, right? So these are all major triads. So when G is major, all the notes match accidentals. When D, E, and A are major, the middle note is always higher than the other two. And then when B, the special one, is major, the top 2 are raised by 1/2 step compared to the bottom. So this is definitely a G major. What has happened? Well, this one went down and this one went down. That's a lowered 3rd and a lowered 5th. Lowered 3rd and lowered 5th. That is the recipe for diminished. So this is a G diminished triad. Cool, let's look at another one. F sharp. Okay, so we know that they should match when they're major. Oh, and these do. So let's just build it just so we have it. So let's make all of those major. So this is F sharp major, right? If the root moves, they all move. So if F matches when it's major, it should still match when it's F sharp major, right? And we're not seeing any changes from that. So I've already found F sharp major. And has anything changed? No. Well, then it must be major. F sharp. Cool, E flat, we finally got a treble clef. I'm still gonna do bass clef over here. So this is an E flat chord. So let's start off with step 1. There, I think is good. So to get E flat, what do I have to do? If the root goes down, they all go down. So I'll even write that over here too, E flat. So what does it look like when E flat is major? So E flat, the root went down 1, then everybody goes down 1. So E goes down to E flat. G sharp goes down to G. B goes down to B flat. So now we have what E flat major looks like. Has anything changed? Oh, no, this is just E flat major. E flat major. Done. Ooh, this one looks interesting. And it's a B chord. All right, let's go look at our B. So that's what B looks like when it's major, but we don't have B, do we? Our root is B flat. So let's build our B flat chord first. So there's B flat. Cool. So B goes down to B flat. D sharp goes down to D natural. F sharp goes down to F natural. Notice it's still lower bottom note, higher, higher, right? So B flat, D, F, that's what B flat major looks like. And let's see what's changed, right? So that's our second step. First of all, what does this look like when it's a B flat major chord? Well, B flat major looks like B flat, D, F. And if doing my matching thing doesn't work for you, just build your B flat major scale and see what notes are on 1, 3, and 5. As long as it belongs to the major scale, it will be a major triad. So here we go. So B flat major scale would make B flat D F, or using my matching method, just everybody moves if the root moves. So B goes down 1, D goes down 1, F goes down 1. That gives us this. This is a B flat major triad. Is it different? The fifth is raised. Okay, so a raised fifth means augmented. Cool. All right, let's do a couple more. And we have a D flat. So a D flat chord. We're going to start with D. And D major looks like that, but we have D flat, so that means I need to lower everyone by a half step, right? If the root goes down a half step, everyone does. D flat, natural, and flat. So that is what D flat major looks like. How is it changed? Oh, none at all. This is D flat major. Notice when I click M, it just disappears because the shorthand for writing a D flat chord doesn't need the major, right? One more. G sharp. Everybody matches, right? Well, that means I don't even have to do it, right? G sharp, if everybody matches when it's G, then everybody matches when it's G sharp. Everybody matches when it's G double sharp. All the notes should match when it's major. So is this all matching? Then it must be major. This is G sharp major. And F sharp is the same deal, right? So all match when it's major. So F sharp, A sharp, C sharp is an F sharp major chord. Okay, then just in case my way doesn't feel good for your kind of thinking, let's do a couple with our interval methods. So first thing is, let's do third, fifth recipes first. So we just have to identify these, right? So all we need to do is put the notes in our pop-up piano. So G sharp, I want to mark, and B and D. So I guess we can count half steps here. So a major third is 4 half steps. What do we have? We have 1, 2, 3. Oh, that's a minor third. So we've now just gotten down to a possible minor triad or diminished already just by having a minor third first. It immediately cancels out 2 of our other options. And then we can check the fifth. So G sharp to D is a diminished fifth. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 half steps instead of 7 for perfect. So we have a minor third and a diminished fifth together. That means we have a diminished chord. What is the name of the chord? It's G sharp, the bottom note, right? G sharp, and the chord is diminished. Cool. Let's do a D chord the same way. So we'll just do a couple of these and a couple with the other recipes too. D chord. So let's write them in. D, F, A. So some sort of D triad. I'm going to put that root in there. Cool. All right. D to F is what kind of third? 1, 2, 3. That's a minor third. So again, we've reduced things to either being minor or diminished in the end. Then we check our fifth. D to A. That's a perfect fifth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that must mean we have minor third, perfect fifth. This must be minor, so D minor. Let's do one more like this, or maybe two. Okay, E sharp. So let's grab an E sharp and a G sharp. So we marked all our notes, and let's check our first third. 1, 2, 3. It's a minor third. Okay, and that means we're again in the minor or diminished realm because our first one immediately eliminated major and augmented. So E sharp to B sharp, that's a perfect fifth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 again. So that means this must be E sharp. Name is E sharp, minor. Oh, good. So finally one that's not minor at the beginning. So let's build this one and then we'll try the other method. So we need D sharp. There we go. So G, B, D sharp. Let's see what we get. So G to B, 1, 2, 3, 4 is a major third. So it's now either major or augmented in our mind. Now we check the fifth. And that is an augmented fifth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So augmented fifth with a major third means an augmented chord. So it's a G chord and it's augmented. Let's try with the other kind of recipe too, just to find your favorite way, right? So we want to find the way that works the best for our thinking. I wouldn't suggest switching methods a lot. Just pick your best one and stick with it. You will get fast at any of these methods. They all are pretty useful and none of them have any real big disadvantages. So just pick your favorite and stick with it. Whichever one works best for you now will probably work best for you forever. All right, so we have an E, G, B flat chord. So E to G, now we're checking third and third recipes, right? So not third and fifth anymore. First E to G, 1, 2, 3, that's a minor third. And let's check the other one while we're here. 1, 2, 3 again, 2 minor thirds. That must be a diminished chord. So root is E, diminished. All right, let's do another one. Let's get away from E. Let's do a different thing. Let's just go like that. Okay, let's see what we have. So C to E flat is 1, 2, 3. That's a minor third on the bottom. So it's one of our minor third bottom types. So either minor or diminished. And then we have 1, 2, 3. Again, this must be minor, minor, right? Diminished. So this is a C diminished chord. Cool. G, B, D sharp. Let's check it. G, B, D sharp. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 major thirds. That would be augmented. Okay, so this is a G augmented. Cool. All right, F, A, C. F, A, C. And what do we have? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3. Major first, then minor. This must be a major triad. F major. Oops, did I click the wrong thing? F major. All right, last one, E, G, B flat. E, G, B flat. Cool. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Oh, this must be another diminished. 2 minor thirds, right? All right, one more. G sharp, B sharp, D sharp. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Major and then minor. Okay, so it must be major. So this is a G sharp major. Cool. Well, hopefully one of those methods works for you. There's lots of options. Pick one, and hopefully this will get really fast really soon. Eventually, you just look at these chords and you just see what it is, like D flat minor, right? You just see them and you just know them. There's not that many, so it ends up being pretty easy in the end. And they kind of just memorize themselves if you do enough repetition. And then you don't even need the method. You just look at the chord and you just recognize it. So that will come too, but that might take a couple of years. So no rush. All right, see you in the next one.